It started with the sound of a child screaming down an empty highway, a sound so raw and terrified that it sliced through the steady hum of motorcycle engines like a siren. A group of bikers had just slowed at a red light on the outskirts of a small Georgia town. The air was heavy with the scent of asphalt and exhaust, and the low rumble of Harleys filled the quiet evening. But that scream, that desperate, broken cry, made every head turn. "Please help! They're beating my mama!" The words echoed across the road. The riders froze. Out of the fading light came a teeny girl, no more than 7, sprinting barefoot down the shoulder of the road. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks streaked with dirt and tears, and in her small fist she clutched a ragged teddy bear like it was her last piece of safety in the world. The bikers immediately cut their engines. The thunder of metal faded into silence, replaced by the sound of the girl's sobs and the distant chirping of crickets. The leader, a broad man with a grey beard and tattooed arms known to everyone as Tank, swung his leg off his Harley and crouched to meet her at eye level. Despite his rough exterior, his voice was soft, steady, fatherly. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked gently. The little girl sniffled, catching her breath. "Kayla," she said between sobs. "They're hurting my mama." "He's gonna kill her!" Tank's jaw tightened. Behind him, the rest of his crew, a mix of burly men and tough-looking women, exchanged quick, concerned looks. "How far?" he asked urgently. Kayla pointed down a narrow dirt road leading into a stretch of dark pine woods. "Back there. The blue trailer." "Please, hurry." Tank stood, his boots crunching on gravel. "All right, everyone. Let's move." Without another word, the bikers revved up again, not with the careless roar of freedom, but with purpose. Their headlights sliced through the dust as Kayla ran ahead, her small frame illuminated by the glow of chrome and steel behind her. Tank rode slowly beside her, shouting over the engine noise. "Stay close, kiddo. We've got you." Kayla nodded, her tears drying in the wind. Her little legs moved as fast as they could, kicking up dirt and pebbles, her teddy bear swinging wildly at her side. As they turned down the road, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew heavier, filled with faint, chilling sounds, shouting, the crash of something breaking, and a woman's voice crying out in pain. Tank signaled with his hand, and the bikers formed up like soldiers, headlights cutting through the dark, their leather vests catching the dim glow. The closer they got, the clearer it became. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone was really in danger. Kayla pointed with a trembling hand. "That's it! That's our house." The bikers saw the flickering light from inside the trailer, the shadow of a man moving violently, and the unmistakable sound of a woman begging for mercy. Tank's voice dropped to a growl. "Nobody lays a hand on a woman, not while we're breathing." He parked his bike, took off his gloves and turned to his crew. "Let's go save her." And with that, a small child's desperate cry turned a group of strangers into a rescue squad. A wall of roaring engines, leather jackets, and unshakable resolve heading straight into the heart of danger. When the bikers reached the end of the dirt road, the scene that unfolded before them looked like something out of a nightmare. A rundown trailer stood crooked at the edge of the woods, its front porch light flickering weakly against the darkness. The door hung half open, swinging slightly with every gust of wind. From inside came the unmistakable sounds of chaos. A man shouting, a woman crying, and something crashing to the floor. Tank killed his engine and motioned for the others to do the same. The sudden silence made the shouting inside seem even louder. He turned to his crew, his face hard as stone. "Nobody hurts a woman in front of a kid," he growled. Without needing further instruction, the bikers spread out, moving like a practiced unit. They surrounded the trailer, their boots crunching softly on gravel. Tank's second-in-command, Ace, crouched near a broken window and carefully peeked inside. What he saw made his blood boil. "He's hitting her," Ace whispered. "Hard." Tank didn't wait another second. His fists clenched, and before anyone could blink, he marched up to the door. With one swift, powerful kick, he sent it flying open, the wood cracking under his boot. "Hey, that's enough!" Tank's voice thundered through the small space like a cannon blast. Inside, a large man froze mid-swing. He was red-faced, sweating, his hand still raised. The woman, bruised, trembling, and terrified, had been cornered against the kitchen counter, shielding herself with her arms. The abuser's eyes darted toward the door, and for the first time fear flickered across his face. 10 bikers, all clad in black leather and steel chains, stood behind Tank like a wall of muscle and fury. "Who the hell are you?" The man barked, trying to sound tough, though his voice cracked slightly. Tank didn't even blink. His tone was calm, but his eyes were cold. The wrong people to mess with. The man took a step back. One of the bikers, Ryder, crossed his arms and muttered, "You lay another hand on her, and we'll show you what real pain feels like." The abusive man's bravado evaporated. His face went pale as he glanced from one biker to another, realizing he was hopelessly outnumbered and outmatched. Just then, a small voice broke through the tension. "Mama!" Kayla sprinted past the bikers and straight into the woman's arms. The mother dropped to her knees, clutching her daughter tightly, sobbing into her hair. "Oh, baby, are you okay?" she cried, kissing her forehead. Tank's jaw unclenched slightly. He turned to the woman. "You okay, Mom?" Kayla sprinted past the bikers and straight into the woman's arms. The mother dropped to her knees, clutching her daughter tightly, sobbing into her hair. "Oh, baby, are you okay?" she cried, kissing her forehead. Tank's jaw unclenched slightly. He turned to the woman. "You okay, Mom?" She nodded weakly, tears streaming down her bruised cheeks. "I am now," she whispered. Outside, the bikers stood guard while Ace called the sheriff. They didn't shout or threaten. They just waited, silent and steady, making sure that man didn't move an inch. By the time the flashing red and blue lights arrived, the once terrifying bully was sitting on the floor, head down, too scared to speak. And when the officers asked who stopped him, Kayla pointed proudly toward Tank and said, "The angels on motorcycles." The bikers called the sheriff's department, their voices steady over the line. Despite the adrenaline still pumping in their veins, they knew time was critical, every second mattered. But before the police arrived, the man, a hulking figure with a history of violence, tried to slip through the back door, thinking he could vanish into the shadows unnoticed. Ace's reflexes were faster than instinct. In one swift motion, he grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him against the brick wall. "You move another inch," Ace warned, his voice low but deadly, "and you'll meet the pavement before the cops do." The man froze, his bravado melting into fear, and for the first time that night, he realized he wasn't dealing with ordinary people. By the time the deputies arrived, flashing lights painting the alley in blue and red, they were met with a scene they hadn't expected. A gang of bikers standing like sentinels around a woman and a small child, both of them trembling, both of them alive and unharmed. It was a tableau of protection that felt almost surreal. "Don't worry," Tank said to the officer, his voice calm but commanding. "We didn't touch him. We just made sure he didn't touch her again." The deputies exchanged glances, surprise etched on their faces. They were used to seeing bikers as troublemakers, not guardians. The man was cuffed and read his rights, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. But the bikers didn't step back. They didn't ride off into the night like some vigilante crew with a mission complete. Instead, they stayed, quietly ensuring that Maria and her daughter were truly safe. Paramedics arrived shortly after, checking Maria over with professional care, their stethoscopes and bandages cutting through the lingering tension. Kayla clung to her mother, eyes wide, still shaking, still unsure if the nightmare was really over. Tank knelt down to meet her at eye level, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now, kiddo," he said gently. "Nobody's gonna hurt your mama again." Kayla didn't respond with words. Instead, she threw her arms around him, burying her face into his vest and sobbing freely. The sound of her relief, of trust, seemed to wash over the group like a balm, softening the hard edges of the night. For Maria, it was a moment she hadn't felt in years. Fear melted into gratitude, exhaustion into a fragile hope. She allowed herself the smallest, most tentative smile. A smile that didn't feel forced. A smile that came from the deep realization that maybe, just maybe, her life could have a different ending. The bikers packed up her belongings, speaking quietly among themselves, making sure nothing was left behind that could threaten her peace. Tank gave Maria one last nod, a silent promise that this wasn't just a one-time act. They would make sure she and Kayla had a moment to breathe, to recover, to begin again. That night, as the sirens faded into the distance and the shadows of the bikers melted into the streetlights, Maria held her daughter close and allowed herself to feel something she hadn't dared in years: safety. And for the first time, that small, fragile smile felt like the start of something real. A week later, the story of what had happened at Maria's house had spread through the town like wildfire. People whispered about the gang of bikers who had stood their ground, protecting a mother and her child from harm. Soon, the locals started calling them the Guardian Bikers, a name that carried awe and respect. Yet for Tank and his crew, it wasn't about recognition or fame. It was about something deeper: family, loyalty, and doing the right thing. They continued visiting Maria and Kayla regularly, always showing up at the right time. Sometimes it was small things: helping fix the broken porch, mending the fence, or clearing weeds from the yard. Other times it was bigger gestures. They helped Maria find a safer apartment, arranging movers, and even pitching in to cover part of the deposit. When they learned she had lost most of her savings due to the chaos, the crew organized a small fundraiser at the local community hall. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers came together to donate money and household items. So Maria and Kayla could start over with dignity. Evenings became moments of quiet connection. One particular evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Tank sat on the porch with Kayla, each of them holding a melting popsicle in their hands. The air was warm, carrying the scent of summer flowers and the faint rumble of distant traffic. Kayla looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes, curiosity shining through her shy smile. "Why did you help us?" she asked, her voice small but genuine. Tank paused, letting her question hang in the air. He watched her, noticing the way her little hands clutched her popsicle, how the sunlight caught her hair, and how much trust she had already placed in him. After a long moment, he leaned back, letting out a slow sigh. "Because once," he said quietly, "someone helped me when I thought nobody cared, and now it's my turn to make sure someone else feels that way." Kayla's eyes sparkled as she processed his words. She didn't fully understand the weight behind them, but she understood the kindness, the protection, and the love that radiated from the man in front of her. For her, that moment was enough. It was a moment that made her feel safe in a world that had, for too long, seemed uncertain. The Guardian Bikers' support extended beyond the home. On Kayla's first day back at school, the bikers organized something extraordinary. A long line of motorcycles rumbled behind the school bus as it pulled up to the schoolyard, the engines humming like a living wall of protection. The other kids gawked, mouths open in disbelief. pointing at the black jackets, gleaming helmets, and the men who had become legends in their small town. Kayla stepped off the bus with a wide grin, her backpack bouncing on her shoulders. She waved proudly at her new friends, the bikers standing tall like guardians in every direction. For the first time in a long time, she felt unafraid. She felt seen. She felt loved. And as the bikers revved their engines one last time before leaving, Kayla knew, no matter what, she would always have a family that had her back. Maria and Kayla's story didn't stay quiet for long. A neighbor, inspired by the bikers' unexpected act of kindness, snapped a photo of them fixing the broken porch and shared it on social media. The caption read simply but powerfully, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some ride Harleys." Within hours, the post went viral. People from across the country shared it, some adding their own stories of being helped by strangers in unexpected ways. News stations picked it up the next day, broadcasting footage of the bikers helping Maria lift furniture, repaint walls and clean up the yard. Donations poured in, money, clothes, school supplies and furniture, all sent to help Maria and Kayla start over with some measure of stability. But the bikers didn't stop at helping just one family. Inspired by the outpouring of love and the tangible difference they could make, they created a charity dedicated to supporting victims of domestic violence. They named it Kayla's Angels, after the little girl who had sparked their mission. The charity began raising funds, offering housing support, counseling, and emergency assistance for families in need. During a live interview on a local news channel, Maria's voice trembled as she spoke. Tears ran down her cheeks, but her smile shone brighter than the camera's lights. "I thought help would never come," she said, her words raw with emotion. Then a group of strangers showed up and changed everything. They didn't just protect us, they gave us hope. The interviewer turned to Tank, asking how it felt to suddenly be seen as heroes. Tank, leaning casually against his motorcycle, shook his head with a modest grin. "We're not heroes," he said quietly, his tone calm and grounded. "We just heard a cry for help, and did what anyone should have done. If that makes us heroes, then I'm honored. But really, anyone would have done the same." That night, back in the safety of their new apartment, Maria tucked Kayla into bed. The little girl hugged her blanket tightly, still processing everything that had happened. Her big eyes looked up at her mother, filled with awe and wonder. "Mama," she whispered, "the bikers were like angels, weren't they?" Maria brushed a stray lock of hair from her daughter's forehead, a tear slipping down her cheek despite the calm she felt. She leaned down, voice soft but steady. "Yes, baby," she said, pressing a gentle kiss to Kayla's forehead. "Sometimes angels ride motorcycles." Outside their window, the faint rumble of engines echoed down the quiet road. The sound wasn't frightening. It was steady, protective, and oddly comforting. Each rumble seemed to say the same thing: "You are safe now." For the first time in a long time, Maria and Kayla closed their eyes without fear. The weight that had pressed on their shoulders for years, the terror, the sleepless nights, the uncertainty, finally lifted, replaced by a fragile but unshakable sense of peace. And somewhere in the distance, the Guardian bikers rode on, engines humming through the night, carrying with them the knowledge that their small act of courage had changed lives forever. In that moment, hope wasn't just a word. It was alive, steady, and roaring down the streets like a pack of angels on Harleys.